Jasper Cole here with the Liberty Speaks blog. Just in, these yahoos over here seem to think that, they say that China's re-release of Avatar is set to oust Disney in Marvel's Avengers Endgame. But this is in China. From its top position as the best growing film ever, Avatar has found its way to the big screen once again in China this weekend, with the country anticipating a huge post-COVID box office hit. Well, it sounds like China really cares about their people, being locked down from all this COVID nonsense and all. They really just want to kind of boost morale a little bit, because they care so much about human life, right? China is just so magnanimous. Thank you, Yahoo. Thank you, Hollywood, for releasing that film there in China. All right, yeah, see all the Holly weird cast right here. Let's see what this is. Oh, wait, what's going on here? In communist China, persecution of religious minorities isn't a new phenomena, as Beijing considers religion to be an evil thing, as it can mobilize masses, thus threaten its totalitarian form of government. Be it Tibetan Buddhists, Christians, they're killing Christians or persecuting Christians, and I don't know if they're killing Christians, not according to this article anyway, but Uyghur Muslims, they've been systematically subjugated by the Communist Party of China. However, reliable reports of rampant abuse and inhumane treatment of there you go. Uyghur Muslims in the Xinjiang province of China shocked the world. Yeah, this is shocking. You would think from this article here that these yahoos put out that Hollywood and China were working together for the sake of the Chinese people because they care so much about China, right? Oh, what's this one? Let's read about this persecution of the Christians, shall we? Persecution of Christians in China by the Chinese Communist Party is rising sharply. And today, big data and artificial intelligence, AI? Isn't that AI Silicone Valley, right? Today's big data and artificial intelligence enabled Christian persecution? Wait, hold up. So you're saying that Hollywood and Silicon Valley enabled this persecution of Christians and other religious minorities in China? It says until the 90s, the Chinese government discovered an underground church. The members were just beaten or fined, while their leaders were arrested and tortured, sent to labor camps. Killed? Killed? Or simply disappeared. And they restricted the availability of Bibles. Well, that's pretty interesting. Let's go on here. The China Tribunal, an independent legal entity created to investigate decades of reports of China selling organs cut out of living political prisoners? Wait a minute. But China cares about their people right here. We can see in this article right here from these yahoos, right? In Hollywood. But then again, that's the same Hollywood that's working with the Silicon Valley people right here to persecute Christians with their AI, which kind of tracks people's movements and what people do, and if there's political dissent in the country. And now they're saying that they're taking organs out of these political prisoners for doing nothing more than reading the Bible and meeting together for church. Well, that doesn't sound like very magnanimous or like they care about their people at all. Let's dive a little further real quick. The China Tribunal's report follows months of investigation, including testimony from experts and first-hand accounts from former political prisoners. Wait, hold on. These are victims that are missing body parts because they were political prisoners in China. Who cares about people because they've been on COVID lockdown for this long and they're just so magnanimous and care about human life, right? Very interesting. Those most vulnerable to having their kidneys, livers, hearts, and other organs cut out of them without anesthesia. They don't even give them anesthesia when they're robbing them of their very vital life-giving organs like kidneys and livers. And wow, this is, other ethnic minorities too. But I thought the Democrats were all in big support of helping China because, they're the party of diversity and ethnic diversity. But that's if you're not a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or apparently from a different ethnicity now. Wow, they're racists. They're ethnic bigots, it would seem. Maybe Hollywood should get back onto a movie like this and release this in China. This is Never Let Me Go. This is actually a film that was put out based on a book by Kazuko Ishiguro. I read this in cultural anthropology when I was still in college. And this book is actually, I don't want to give too much of a spoiler, but it's about a group of children that are living in this schoolhouse and you don't really know what's going on, but people start disappearing and two of these people are falling in love within there and they have a childhood romance that grows into kind of a early adulthood romance, but nobody really lives much past that because they find out later that they're cloned human beings and they're used strictly for the purpose of organ harvesting. And it brings up a really huge ethical debate on if cloned human beings would be equal to real human beings that are naturally born, I should say. Maybe not real, because they're real human beings as well in here. And it really does provoke some thought. But you'd never see a film from Hollywood like this released in China, because it would bring up that ethical debate about cloned human beings, yet alone naturally born human beings who are being taken as political prisoners, tortured, beaten in some of the most horrendous ways. There's actually a recent article from the Epoch Times, I'll bring that out, about a woman who had escaped from one of these death camps or reprogramming camps, and they were talking about some of the worst treatment if they lived, where guards would repeatedly rape them and bite them and beat them and put cattle prods in their genitalia and things like that, and set them afire pretty much with electrocution, electrocute them in the most horrendous ways. It's really, really horrible and puts some things into perspective about the suffering that these people are enduring because they have a different political belief, or they're a different race of people, or they have a religious affiliation of any kind. And that really makes sense in communist countries in general, or socialist countries that end up becoming communist countries as well, because the government wants to be your God and they want to tell you what's right and wrong. If anyone would just read 1984 by George Orwell, or if you were to read Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, you can see that religion just really doesn't jibe because the government wants to be your God. So you'd never see a film like Never Let Me Go there. But this isn't really new to them. They know what's going on. Hollywood, Silicone Valley, the people that are in office right now occupying our White House are very aware of the human trade and how huge of a problem it is. And that's what I'm trying to get at. Here you can read from other witnesses that say that authorities torture you and force you to watch. You see that word, authorities? notice that language change has been happening in the United States too. Officials are now being referred to as authorities. You know, America is America now and hasn't been referred to as the United States for a long time. We're referred to as a democracy and not the republic or democratic republic that we are. 'Cause we have both. We actually can still stand up for our rights here. We're not thrown into prison camps yet. But according to Ocasio-Cortez, she still would like us, what does she call us all, that voted for Trump sycophants. You know, you may not agree with the man himself, but his policies are definitely more in alignment with the rest of America for the most part, or the United States of America, I should say. I'm trying not to get into that habit and fall into the habit. But here, authorities torture you and force you to watch films designed to brainwash you. That's almost Fahrenheit 451-ish, even, with the propaganda and the masks. I mean, I'm seeing little traces of all of that in our society anymore. Are you? In a bid to align your views with those of China's ruling Communist Party, every now and then you are dragged from your filthy, overcrowded cell to a room where, without warning, needles are jabbed into your arm and blood is drawn, no doubt to check your blood type, into as many vials as it can fill, and then prison authorities instruct a group of drug-addicted criminals. It's easier to sway people. We know, especially in the human-trafficking trade, anyone who's done any research on the human-trafficking trade, especially in the sex trade, which actually this is a huge part of the sex trade, so I'm going to just refer to this as the human trade from now on. In the human trade, it's a lot easier to sway people if they're addicted to, like, heroin, let's say, or opium back in the day, or some kind of thing that would make them a little bit more questionable, make their morals a little more flexible because they want the substance at that point in time. They become creatures of behavior and habit, and they're a lot more easily swayed and broken down. Seeing most drug-related crimes are just insane in the U.S. anyway, in the U.S. prison system. People do some crazy stuff for drugs. Well, every now and then you're dragged from your filthy cell, this person says. Then the prison authorities instruct a group of drug-addicted criminals to use violence to restrain you, as you're made to give a urine sample and be subject to invasive medical procedures. No one responds to your screams or cries for help. Wow, China sounds so magnanimous, don't they? I mean, I'm glad that they care so much about their people that they're going to release Avatar so that they can continue to take their metaphorical soma. And thank you, government. You're so nice, because we've been in lockdown for so long, we just can't wait to get back to the movie theater. Thank you for locking us down because you want to protect human life so much. Yeah, these guys are freaking insane, man. So here's my question, though, in regards to the Never Let Me Go as well in China. We do have cloning technology in some levels, like in quite a bit of levels. We've cloned a whole sheep, and we've actually cloned body parts, such as ears, for an example, on the backs of mice and things like that. Can we clone just organs rather than taking them from people to meet this huge demand? Well, it says, human body parts materials can be cloned for or morally for prosthetics, transfusions, and other medical procedures. And it would be a lot better of a fit, I would think, because it would be your organ that you're replacing your organ with. You wouldn't have to take all these anti-rejection drugs that Big Pharma bills big money for. It's almost like this is a giant money-making scheme for these elitists that already have billions and billions of dollars. Cloning that does not involve the destruction of human embryos or the creating of human life is an acceptable scientific procedure if done with legitimate intentions, which we can see that. And we can raise that ethical debate. I don't think that would be a problem in my opinion, unlike Never Let Me Go, which is cloning an exact copy of yourself just for organ transplants later on in life. But these are actually people, not just organs. And they're autonomous human beings with thoughts and feelings. How much more so real human beings? You know, I mean, that's the thing. It's, you see this with big tech and Hollywood already working together to work against counterproductive to people in general. They're malignant to human beings. But we can see this stuff happening right here. This is, I can't remember her name. I think it's Mia, or was it Maria Abramovic or whatever. She was the person that was in this is the lady right here. This is her supposed art, humiliating this poor African American fellow right here. All these elitists, Hollywood, elitists. These, I guarantee you, everybody here votes Democrat. For some reason, this is okay, but they're anti-racist and they're supposedly some magnanimous virtue signaling people. That's Lady Gaga right there without makeup. That's a pretty scary sight in and of itself, is it not? Now there it is. Marina Abramovic, racist spirit cooking dinner. Yes, and this was the same one from the Podesta emails on the Hillary Clinton servers that the internet has convoluted lately to say that there were fake emails, even though we know for real that they came from WikiLeaks. We read the emails. They're very real. Right off the servers. If they were fake, why were they trying so hard to bury them and cover them up? Why is there this information all over the internet? Now saying that they were not real. Well, I guess because it brings shame to them. They like to tell us how to be and shame us. They don't like being shamed for the things that they're actually doing. They'd rather shame us for the things that we're hypothetically doing. What Hillary Clinton's campaign manager John Podesta has been up to, shocking. New photo include African American man painted white, stripped naked, and humiliated with Lady Gaga and Marina Abramovic from the Clinton Podesta emails and the spirit cooking stuff. Hope you all remember that. I'm not going to go too much into that. I do want to go into the connection right here between political figures, Silicone Valley, and Hollywood. They're one giant propaganda machine. They're working together to tell you how to live and how you should react with other human beings when we already respect each other, I think, for the most part. I mean, you do see, crime and things like that, which are absolutely disrespect of human beings to human beings, and they do leave victims. Those are real crimes, but they're trying to push all these thought crime agenda at this point in time. And the virtue signaling, Hollywood is no stranger to virtue signaling. But as far as the human trafficking trade, is there a connection there too? I mean, there is this weird stuff, and then there's this whole, oh, wait a minute, what's this here? Marina Abramovic demands conspiracy theorists. Oh, we're conspiracy theorists now. You see, this is the language as it's morphing, the morphology of the English language at this point in time. The conspiracy theorists leave her alone, and she's not a Satanist, as she's sitting there holding a severed flayed goat head. I'm an artist. Well, and this person actually is posing with a flayed goat head and brewing blood, feces, semen, and breast milk cocktails for can't even think about that. So disgusting. For political elites. Yeah, and we're conspiracy theorists because they're doing this stuff and we're pointing that out. So they put a stigma on us because we just read what's out there and we see what's out there. We make an opinion on it, and somehow it's a conspiracy theory. And it's not really a theory if it's out in the open and it's fact. And I'll point to Russell Brand just recently on his podcast, speaking in relation to the Davos World Economic Forum and the Great Reset. It's not a conspiracy theory, because if it's a theory, it would imply that it's not out in the public record. And we can't look for ourselves and see what's right in front of our eyes. But that makes sense to these people. Once again, that's that Orwellian 1984 or that Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, that rethink thing where you could see somebody getting murdered or an organ harvested right in front of your eyes, and then you're just like, oh, hold up, I got to put that back in the brain and process it through this rethink. Maybe I didn't see what I actually just saw with my own eyes. So don't be a sheep and go along with the masses in this case. She says she needs to open her heart. This is the lady that was having, right here, let's see, mixed in cocktails for political elites for dinner parties where celebrity guests pretend to consume human flesh, but they'll eat feces cocktails with breast milk and semen in them. But they're pretending to eat human flesh, I'm sure, on public pictures. I don't know if they're really above or beyond eating real flesh or drinking real blood at this point in time. They're doing other things. I mean, one can assume, but let's not take away from the record here. Let's see what there is. But this totally explains why Allison Mack, the Hollywood actress, she's the one that played Chloe in Smallville back in the early 2000s, late 90s. She was actually just recently linked to Jeffrey Epstein, who supposedly killed himself. She was arrested and convicted, by the way, for child sex trafficking. I'm going to just let that sink in for a second. And these guys hang out together. All these people. Epstein, the political elites, there's definitely a connection there. We got pictures to prove it. Oh, not going to put that through rethink. But anyway, there's this. I mean, this is that woman who's linked to the Podesta emails, Hillary Clinton, with Epstein linked and Ghislaine Maxwell linked. Smallville star right here from Hollywood, who definitely knows all these people right here. Who's that fella right there? It's really interesting. And Lady Gagme right here. Very, very interesting. But Allison Mack here was already convicted of being involved in the human trafficking, and not only human trafficking, child trafficking, and we know in South America, because this was hiding out in a Mexican villa, for an example. We know down south too, in Mexico, and even farther down south, like Costa Rica and Brazil, the organ trade is very alive and well as well, and it's mainly child organs that they're taking, so they're literally killing kids and trafficking them. They're also a link to the sex workers as well, you can see in this article. But right here, former Hillary Clinton campaign chair John Podesta was a frequent attendee at Marina's infamous spirit cooking dinner parties, where he rumored to include real human blood and flesh on the menu. Just saying, it's in public record. It's not a conspiracy theory. This is real stuff. But anyway, just some stuff for you to think about. But this is not new to us. I mean, it's really crazy that, Yahoo, which is part of Silicone Valley as well, it's not like, hey, let's actually reinforce this belief system right here so you can actually see where we're coming from. Bill Gates is involved in this as well. I mean, Marina Abramovic. Oh, there's another one. Here's the black market for organs reportedly alive and well on Facebook, because there's actually an actual Facebook connection where people are using the platform to sell these illegally harvested organs. And then somehow in the United States, Facebook has put up a thing for legal, according to this same article, a legal group for organ donations, so you can put out there for legal organs. Like, they're not going to get hit up for illegal ones. I think it's really crazy. But this isn't all of it. Let's see here what else. Marina Abramovic. Oh, there you go. There's some scary pictures right there. That's Marina and Lady Gagme not wearing any clothes. I'm sorry for that, folks. Oh, that's pretty disgusting right there. That's the, let's get past that picture real quick. The cannibalistic, bleh, absolutely disgusting. make it look like they're eating human flesh and all that stuff. I mean, I can't believe this stuff is actually going on. In Hollywood, in general, yet alone, all these people participate, and they pretend like we're stupid. They really think we're stupid. They're like, oh no, don't pay attention to what's happening over here. This isn't really happening. This is really happening instead, and you're a racist, and you're a bigot, and you deserve to die because you're a Christian. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Or a Muslim, or a Buddhist, or anything. I just find it, I can relate because of... Well, anyway, on Good Friday, the holiest day in the Christian calendar, well, there's debatable right there. Because the holiest day, I think, is the resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Because he overcame the grave, he didn't just end up in the grave, but they like to deny the resurrection, which I think is absolutely fascinating as well. Bill Gates, Microsoft released a commercial promoting its association with the elites. Just gotta love this word because they're so much better than us, right? The elite's favorite artist, Maria Abramovic, after a huge backlash from internet users calling her out as a Satanist because people do not do this stuff. Normal people do not do this stuff. See, it just tells you how disconnected all these people are from the rest of us out here who are still more so in touch with our human side. I do understand that human beings can be totally depraved and, well, actually are totally depraved by nature. And, there's a separation from God that we have from the fall. However, right here, there's still people that are totally depraved that are not doing this kind of stuff, this is just levels of moral turpitude that, I mean, it's just unthinkable. But I guess I don't find it so weird right now that these yahoos over here want to promote this Hollywood agenda right here so Silicone Valley, Hollywood, and you get the idea. They're all into the human trade. They don't care about human life. But they pretend under the guise of virtue signaling, social justice warriors or whatever to get their way, to manipulate the masses, to invoke feelings in you that are feelings that they don't even have themselves, so that they can get their way. This is manipulation. This is classic manipulation. But anyway, I'm going to refer you to this. If you can ever get the book, Never Let Me Go, I really recommend you read it. Brings up a huge ethical debate. Watch the movie if you'd like to, if you're kind of a book on tape fella like me, or a book on tape lady. I like books on tape. It's just a quick way to do it, or do both. You can retain more. But really look into the world around you. What is Hollywood promoting? Why are they promoting it? Why are they, trying to infiltrate your mind in such a way? What are they trying to program you to believe? The socialism thing that is being pushed right now is absolute crap. And the censorship that's coming out of Silicone Valley is absolutely absurd. I mean, they censored a sitting president in his country from working within the country that he's the sitting president of. There's no other country in the world you could do that in without the push of China. But there's no other country really backlashing against that too much. Well, there's a few in Europe, but China's definitely not, because they censor stuff that goes out to their people all the time. But we don't want to be Chinese here in the U.S. It's just crap at this point in time. We don't want that. That's not... This is what it leads to. There's no regard for human life. If you have any religion or any form of objective right and wrong as a standard, then you're killed for it. I mean, this is not what we want here in this country. Is this what you want in this country? Why are the Hollywood elitists, why are the news pushing it? I mean, really think about this stuff. Is everything you're seeing on TV real? This really brings into a lot of questions. We know that the crowds at the Democratic National Convention and all that stuff, those are, they're really smaller than they actually are, portrayed to be on TV. Even Joe Biden's supposed campaign trail that he was doing, from his basement, when he wasn't in his basement, I mean, nobody shows up to these things. Is the Democratic presence really that? Is it all that it seems, or is it being magnified to look like it's actually more than it really is, trying to gain power over your mind? My grandfather back in World War II, just after World War II, was a propagandist for the U.S. Army in Germany, and they would print newspapers saying that people were giving up their guns and, you know, just kind of doing things like American misinformation in Germany to kind of gain an advantage right at the tail throes of World War II, to kind of break apart the cohesion of the Nazi Party that was remnant at that point in time, to kind of overcome the mind. Because if you want to beat a country, even World War II, I believe it was, with the inflatable army from Allied forces. I mean, they had literal tanks and trucks, and they put up whole war camps that looked like real from a distance. They were rubber, I mean, the equivalent to rubber tires pretty much, or inflatable tubes that you go tubing with. And they looked like tanks, and they looked like trucks. But the thing is you just psychologically win in the mind, is what it is. You know, there's some old war stories I've actually heard even too about, like, after Vietnam, you know, a British, what was his name, I want to say it was Mad Max or something like that, but the guy went into like war with a sword and a kilt and bagpipes and whatever, and he had a team of, like, they became the British SAS is really what essentially happened, and it was his platoon that started it all, and he ended up Mad Murdoch or something, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I'd definitely look that up if I were you, if you want to hear a story that'll make you just smile and roll on the floor laughing. But him and his team were out one time when they were infiltrating, like, I think it was like 20,000 troops that these Germans had set out, like, in World War II. And he only had like a team of like 10 people. And they split off to different corners or whatever, and then they started making all sorts of loud racket, and the radio comms going off and whatnot. So they thought they were surrounded. There's 20,000 people, and the one guy comes up with a sword and his bagpipes, you know, slung over his back, and then he grabs the leader of the camp and pretty much, you know, threatens him, hey, we're going to kill this guy if you don't have your troops stand down. And there was like 10 guys that took over 20,000 people that day. So, I mean, it's just the war of the mind. And that's what they're doing here with us. They're programming us with crap like this that, you know, we shouldn't care about, while stuff like this and this, you know, where they're, and this is going on. You know, I mean, cannibal parties and, oh, who knows what else. So just kind of pointing that out, people. Wake up a little bit. If you're already awake, that's great. This is just more fuel for your fire. Just stay angry about this stuff. You can be angry, and you should be, because it's important to stand up for what's right and to speak up against what's wrong. Yep, communism and socialism doesn't like that. And that's why they don't want you to do it. So that's why they're trying to program your mind. Don't let them beat you. And don't let them take your mind. This has been Casper Cole. I hope this was informative. Let liberty speak and freedom ring.